如果要赢下 EDG 的话，我认为必须在中路和打野方面，要赢过对方，然后去盘活整把游戏，这是我觉得打 EDG 制胜的关键。
Welcome back, everyone. You can even hear from Cool himself knows that the mid jungle is the deciding factor in this matchup. Well, Cool was able to keep pace with Scout in the mid lane, but we've got to turn our attention back to Alex, as you said in the post-game of Game 1.
Yeah, and I just want him, if he's going to grab a champion like Camille, he needs to have early gank rotations onto that mid lane, especially when you have such a power pick like Ryze there. Again, force the cleanse, try to get the kill, try to put Cinder from the back foot. On the other side, EDG recognized that that's probably what they would try to do and really invested all of their resources. Early 4-man gank or invade into the red side of Alex's jungle, constantly warding aggressively into his jungle, constantly having control over the bottom side of the river, and playing very defensive throughout.
It was constant tracking from Haro, too, that we were seeing him maneuver around to keep an eye on wherever that Camille was going, constantly looking to see. So even if the Camille were to take options, Haro seemed to be hovering just about everywhere across the map to track where that would be to keep those lanes safe in advance. So EDG, they've clearly identified their strengths. FPX have done the exact same thing by looking at that mid jungle and how that's going to decide the matchup. We've got to look and pick a ban for Game 2, though, because mid jungle clearly decided Game 1. Are we going to see the same sort of thing out of Game 2?
And usually when you come to this part, you say like, okay, this is what I want to change, this is what I want to focus on. Ultimately from FPX, I don't want them to change anything. I actually really liked their composition. Maybe I'm not a big fan of the Vayne. I would have preferred something like a Varus, but it was banned out by them. EDG, I felt like they had the much harder composition to execute. And simply on the day, they just made less mistakes in terms of their macro decision making. And it was particularly punished by Mako and that Tom Kench. So I'd like to see more changes from EDG, but they won the game, so it's hard to put fault at them.
Yeah, they still played towards that bottom side and were able to maneuver in such a way that FPX, when EDG made mistakes, weren't able to capitalize. And yes, it absolutely did. But we've got to talk more about how this is going to be decided, because yes, the mid jungle is what's going to set it up, but the primary carries were still through the bottom lane for EDG. They played through iBoy and Mako. FPX tried to do that with the Vayne Alistar, but they just couldn't keep pace with that Kai'Sa snowball.
And I feel like this is going to sound a little bit counterintuitive, but you're trying to say that EDG played very offensively through the bot lane. I actually felt that they played really defensively through the bot lane. Because if you think about it, it was FPX who attempted the ganks onto the mid lane repeatedly, and then it was Mako who reacted to it with the Abyssal Voyage. And it just feels like EDG right now are kind of this unmovable object where they've planted their feet, they have this game plan that says, we're going to create this island down here in the bot lane. We're not going to rotate to it. We're just going to naturally win it. And then FPX were just trying to break it. And then as soon as they did, EDG were just quick to spring the trap.
It's almost as if EDG are, and this is a wacky imagery, are Monkey Ball. This is a team that once it builds up some momentum, you've played Monkey Ball, right?
The racing game?
Yeah.
Of course I played Monkey Ball.
Where they're a team that pick up tons of momentum. They got a very clear track forward. It's got jumps and ramps and it's all over the place. But if it falls off the track, they restart at the most recent checkpoint, and all of that time is picked up by FPX to look for their own advantage.
Okay, I'll give it to you. By our powers combined.
You didn't understand it, but then we got to the end and you're like, okay, I see it.
Put the Zork together, it's Monkey Ball, and here's your monkeys on screen right now. Big thing is that there's no swap up into the roster. It's still going to be Haro, so no clear that's appearing. And frankly, why would you sub out Haro? He had a great game. On the other side, they can't swap anyone. They're going down to the ship together if they're going down at all. It's
Same
FPX.
Thing, yeah. Gimgoon, Alex, Cool, LWX, and Crisp make their way back onto stage. And that man on your right, I want to talk about a little more, because despite going in an even matchup against that Gragas, Gimgoon was roaming down into the mid lane and even down into the bottom lane. His teleport was almost always on cooldown because he was trying to match and provide a numbers advantage for FPX, which did keep them close to even throughout that duration of the first 10-15 minutes, but couldn't quite keep pace later on.
And then it just came down to execution, and those small mid-game team fights are the early to mid-game team fights. And then unfortunately, I do have to put a circle around LWX and Alex, because these two were constantly out of position from the mid-game on, and it really cost FPX in critical moments where they could have made turnarounds.
As we said, the shotgun of the LPL. He's the guy who likes to get up close and personal. Sometimes the shotgun fires and punches a hole clean through its target, but sometimes the recoil of that shotgun bucks back and kicks FPX in the face. So far, it seems like his aim is true this time, but EDG are just able to sidestep that shotgun and effectively deny that Vayne scaling, not only compositionally, but also through how they are playing. It's almost always a numbers advantage for EDG whenever they found themselves fighting against that Vayne in Game 1.
And I do want to give a lot of credit to Scout right now on your screen, because when you're talking about numbers advantage, he was constantly where he needed to be. There was only one team fight where Edward Gaming were cut out, not necessarily Scout being out of position, and even more so, his team fighting position. Usually Scout really pops off because he's the heavy playmaker and he's flashing all over, he's picking up the kills, and people are like, wow, Scout's so impressive. But when he does need to play really control-oriented mages, the Syndra, the Orianas, the Cassiopeias, that are much more about controlling space, that's when Scout has really fallen down. That last game in particular, picture-perfect positioning. He was constantly covering EDG's flanks, he was making the necessary picks, he never exposed himself, he never put himself in harm's way. Very controlled, very mature play from Scout.
He was keeping Cool busy effectively throughout the duration of that entire early and mid game. We'll have to see what he decides to take as we get in pick and ban for this Game 2 in the Snake Arena, the Snake Pit itself. EDG looking to challenge Team FPX. As we are already into a few picks, EDG find themselves red side, and it looks like EDG are saying, hey, we ran it once, let's try the same thing again. Do FPX change anything, though?
Of course, the only difference here is the fact that Tahm Kench has been taken away. So again, the priority pick of the Alistar, Chris putting himself on a very big comfort pick, and still the flex pick of the Gragas as well as the Kai'Sa. So we'll see if the Gragas does go down into the support position this time around, but still, nothing has really changed. Just there's the Camille and the Cho'Gath.
FPX saying, hey, it was just the execution. The composition was sound, but the way that we played it out was not. As bans are identical, picks are the same so far. Next pick following down the roster would be Tahm Kench for EDG in that bottom lane. Oh, but Scout, you might be giving us a bit of a giggle here.
Still technically some flex picks, although we would expect to see that in support, so there's no Tahm Kench, but they go for kind of the next best thing in terms of safety, having the Black Shield available for that Kai'Sa, which then puts that Gragas firmly in either the jungle or that top lane. And we already saw how comfortable Ray was to take it into top across from Cho.
Now we're looking to bans out towards Cool's champion pool. He has he absolutely has the possibility to pop off in the mid lane. Can he bring that fire to bear? Because LWX is playing up. Gimgoon is doing everything he can in the top lane on that Cho'Gath, but it's up to Alex, it's up to Cool to convert that into a full 5-man unit of flame, of passion, to bring EDG down.
So what you could do right now is you could ban away the Ryze. I do like the fact that they're still giving a lot of respect to the Varus and taking it away, but I expect it to be another Ryze or something like any champion with a hard CC that can follow up on the Camille. So you want high burst damage, you want targetable CC, the Zoe's not available. I think it has to be the Ryze.
That has been one of Cool's most played champions. Perhaps we might get to see the blind Syndra then out of EDG, or they could do their own thing instead as Ray thinking about taking a carry into Gimgoon up top, now looking at the Poppy to provide more tanks. Looks like EDG have been spending some time practicing that 8.16 patch, but Ray just running it and saving that counter pick for Scout. So once again, Cool has to blind pick into the mid lane, and as you said, is he going to take something that can follow up on the Camille?
Maybe he does takes the respect pick away and grabs hold of the Syndra. He saw so much success that Scout had it in game number 1. I find it interesting that EDG are pretty much hiding their cards, keeping them very close to the chest, playing the exact same composition back-to-back against FPX. And if they continue to play this comp against Snake, then that tells you that EDG are just hiding things for playoffs.
They've already locked themselves into playoffs. The last thing to be determined is seeding, as LWX looking at the Vladimir bottom instead of the Vayne and Cool, blind picking Aurelia mid. Her win rate has decreased slightly since her nerfs here in the LPL, but this could be a champion that sets up and follows excellently on the Camille. But now it's Scout's turn once again to keep Cool locked down in the mid lane.
High damage versus high damage. That does mean, though, that without a pick like Syndra, there's still not a lot of hard engage out of EDG's composition. You're then entirely reliant on Mako's Dark Binding, as well as Ray finding phenomenal casks. So the ability to play a side lane increases a lot with the LeBlanc pickup versus the Syndra due to the mobility, but you don't get that consistent hard engage, which felt like such a linchpin for EDG in game number 1.
the ability to straight up run into someone, though there is plenty of in and out and non-committal crowd control for EDG. That Dark Binding, the Ethereal Chains, a Cask to try to separate someone, and then a very easy collapse as well. Kai'Sa able to follow up, the Ragnarok and Predator from Olaf able to run forward.
For me, it's about the skirmish potential of EDG's composition. You just talked about all of the mobility, the Ragnarok, Kai'Sa's ability to reposition herself, and long-range sniping tools. LeBlanc, we talk about her ability in a side lane all the time. For EDG to really be successful, and if this game comes to a solid 50-50 at, you know, mid-game, late game, I feel like they must start splitting up the map. It's about playing hit and run, it's about playing, you know, Fog of War, horror movie type of League of Legends, whereas FPX, same exact plan. They've got a Vladimir, they have an Aurelia, they've got a Cho'Gath, group up together, be that big thundering 5v5, and roll over EDG.
And that's so scary for FPX, because if they try to match the split push in side lanes, that historically has been a bit of a weakness for them. Gimgoon's communication in those side lanes hasn't always been spectacular when the game finds itself in a volatile state. But when they move cohesively as a unit and they group up and snowball, it can bowl through EDG. We'll have to see which style they decide to take, as this could be their last game of the 2018 year. If they drop here, Snake have a chance to overtake them in 2 matches. A single victory is all Snake need to take the head-to-head and claim that 4th place spot going into playoffs. Will FPX be snaked once again this close to the finish line?
Still an uphill battle, and like you said, this is the one that they can take into their own hands. I like the fact that LWX reached outside of the hyper carry pocket, trying to find some of those mages. It's something that does make him unique across from someone like iBoy. iBoy hasn't played the Karthus, he hasn't played the Vladimir, so going back to the traditional mages, trying to find a bit of a different flavor for that bottom lane, maybe it's the gimmick they need to get over the edge.
Yeah. And now we'll decide to load onto the Rift for this game 2 between EDG and FunPlus Phoenix.
Give him the angry kitty face. Oh, no.
They're doing the exact same thing, though. They're invading as a 5-man unit onto the red buff once again. But look at where Alex is on the map. FPX have learned their lesson and are counter-invading. So this time, it looks like Alex not going to be content to sit back and let himself get stolen away.
And look at that smile on Haro's face. He's like, he's at my red.
He knows.
What are they going to do about it?
There's still 10 seconds on the clock, though.
So now we're going to check what Ray's pathing is up towards the top side, because if he's not careful, he could walk into Gimgoon as well as Alex. And it looks like he's actually going to check the red.
Yeah, walking forward towards it, down to 1,300 health. He can see both Alex and Gimgoon here. Body slam over the wall.
I'm out.
He wants nothing to do with this. And Alex, with the big leash from Gimgoon, starts himself off with that buff.
Now, the information has been given, so we're immediately into vertical jungling, and why this works out better for EDG, although hold that thought, Alex?
Thinking of stepping forward. That's the flash. Scout goes low, the ignite. Cool.
Oh, no.
Hesitates just a moment, and the ignite burns down. He's not going to die, but that was his moment. That was his opportunity, and he hesitated.
Where are you, Alex? That was supposed to be it. I wanted so much more aggression, and now 1v1.
Oh, that's the hook shot. Haro gets caught by the stun. Haro's still walking it back. Red buff burning down, but Alex happy to take that trade. Haro's trying to heal up off of Scuttle.
They also both have the smites.
Auto attack, and Haro?
Okay, look at where Mako is. I'm going to say confusion.
Oh! Alex dropping it down. Now, it's almost certain that Haro wasn't watching his own corpse as that happened, but just in case he saw, that's the mind game, that's the fire, and that's what we wanted to see from Alex.
And frankly, also just a huge blunder. So what I was going to say is that the vertical jungling works better for Edward Gaming because of what strong side of the map they had, which was the bottom. That's exactly where they want it to be. They've got the Kai'Sa, they've always played through bottom lane, and I love that Alex threw a wrench in their plan and said, no, not today. Instead of just having straight vertical jungling, I'm going to break this. Ganks the mid lane, huge disappointment, but walks into the jungle and finds Haro, and now has turned everything on its side. Throw everything out that we saw from the invade, because EDG need to go back to the drawing board and find a new plan.
Hopefully the playbook is big enough for them to recover, because now FPX get the chance to set the pace in this game. Haro with the Hunter's Potion for maximum sustain throughout his clear is going to be heavily slowed down, as it is Alex starting things off with that double buff. Haro will get his own delayed double buff, but losing the red certainly not going to help him out. And now we're going to see how the stakes change in this matchup. Is it just going to be Alex picking and choosing which lane to gank, which lane he wants to try and set up? Or will the lanes themselves have some interaction and decision-making that they need to make?
I mean, he has the pick of the litter. He's got at least some form of CC in every single one of his lanes, as well as a flash missing onto Scout. Still difficult to gank the LeBlanc. She does have access to the distortion. I feel like bot lane should be one of the places that he looks, at least initially, to burn some of those flashes, so that way he can set up Alistar. Wow, I had to look over. Sorry, thought Alistar was Vladimir for a second, was really confused. So he can set up Alistar to make success on these ganks even if he's not available. So go down there, burn the flashes off of Mako and iBoy, then even if you don't make a repeat gank, Alistar still has kill pressure.
We'll absolutely see if he decides to go towards that. He has completed his first recall, challenging Smite and Longsword, as he's hovering down onto the bottom side, takes himself a Raptor camp, but has been spotted by a ward, delayed ward from Scout or Haro in that river. I believe he's trying to clear that right now, as it will fade and starts heading down to the bottom half. So look at this, even with the push pressure down into the bottom side, Mako and iBoy still playing safe down here.
And the combined poke and whittle from both the W from Morgana and Kai'Sa is just a lot to deal with. You have Vladimir and Alistar, so I do like the fact that LWX and Crisp acknowledge, hey, it's Mako, it's iBoy, they're probably going to continuously poke at us, it's going to be really hard to sit and sustain in the lane, so we can go for a Vladimir-Alistar combo, have the built-in sustain as well as the Triumphant Roar, and just try to, you know, bear the load, hunker down, weather the storm.
So far, that Storm is going even 2 CS advantage for LWX down there, but we'll keep an eye on it, as he did go for Kindle Gem first and a Dark Seal along with those Predator boots. Elsewhere in the mid lane, we did see Mako actually take a bit of a circuitous route to try and provide some vision to the river, as Cool forced to respect this LeBlanc. She's close to level 6 and gets it. Look who's hovering nearby. Alex is sitting there.
Was walking over, and then as soon as LeBlanc hit level 6, he backed up and walked the other direction. He's like, I guess not. Not today.
That's the stun. Maximum range. Cool. Still trying to catch this wave, as that was the mimicked Sigil of Malice used by Scout, and it will fade without being detonated. So most of that kill threat should be gone, though the Ignite and Electrocute are still up for Scout if he were to try and look for a dive. And even Cool dropping the assist ping like, hey, just pushing in. She's got level 6.
As well as Ignite.
And Ignite. But Alex is just farming up right now. Gimgoon actually pushing in up top, as Cool will take over to level 6 himself. Just gotta wait for those ethereal chains. iBoy was not level 6. Just stepped into the river. I believe that was his control ward that he places in Pixel Brush.
Uh-oh, Cool.
Wow, Cool. Can he go for the outplay here? He correctly identifies the right target, and Haro walks up. The Ignite burns it down. He got the kill, but if Haro hadn't been there, it would have been an even 1-for-1.
It was almost so majestic from Cool, correctly identifying exactly which target he needed to focus on to. Hold up, though.
Ooh,
1v1.
Haro finds Alex and forces him out of there, landing that Undertow. Of course, the Undertow max does hurt a lot.
But ultimately, it's Haro who shows up, ruins the party, so... We said it was going to be about the mid-jungle synergy, and right now, EDG just actually have it, but so beautifully attempted from Cool there.
And he even got the Triumph off of the kill. That would have survived Scout's Ignite. But Haro walks up just in time. We got to ask, where was Alex?
Farming red.
And continuing to farm at the Raptor camp is iBoy and Haro and Mako. Step down into the red buff as it respawns.
Level 6 on Camille, and Alistar is now behind them. This is great positioning for FPX.
Crisp looks for it, the stun, finds Haro. He's only level 5, he's got no Ragnarok, and he dies. Cool, gets himself another kill. Mako caught by the Hextech Ultimatum. Scout steps up, Alex flashing away. Scout finds his own kill. Ignite from Mako, locks it down. Cool, chasing away through the distortion. Flash over the wall. Is he gonna try to follow up on the clone? No way. All right.
And again, Edward Gaming, like in game number 1, kind of fall into the same trap. That was the exact same spot where they overcommitted to and gave FPX their first kind of foot back into game 1, and it happens in game 2. Excellent reaction time from Crisp in particular to get behind EDG as they were making this invade and setting up his team.
And the target selection as well to find the level 5 Olaf. The moment he sees the black shield go down, he says, okay, I know my target. Calling the bluff as Scout escapes over the wall. iBoy tries to get just a bit more damage, but FPX find themselves with 2 kills over EDG, 1,000 gold ahead, and those kills are on Cool in the mid lane. He's got himself a hyper carry on that Aurelia. He's past level 6, and now he's happy to start taking the fight back to EDG.
But prioritizing a lot of wave clear as opposed to the traditional Trinity Force build that we usually see. At this point in the game, they'd usually have a Phage or a Sheen. Instead, he goes for the Tiamat. So either wanting to hard farm a lot of these jungle camps in between the waves where LeBlanc's just constantly pushing him in, or trying to match a lot of that pushing power from LeBlanc by forcing the wave off the tower.
It does perhaps open the opportunity for him to look for faster roams than a LeBlanc, or like you said, just catch the waves under the turret as he picks himself up blue buff, and Scout heads over to do his own. Oh, there he goes. That's the Tiamat proc to clear that out, and blue buff going to be passed over to Scout down at 0 patience. This is a very fast moving blue buff. He ain't got no time to waste. And Scout picks it up.
But now it's what is Cool going to do with this extra time where he does have Tiamat and he is forcing the waves back? Is he going to make those roams? Because we see him right now in the river with Chris. In fact, FPX have a lot of members here, and I think they are trying to set up some sort of gank or play onto the bottom lane. Who are they going to catch?
Bottom lane, stepping up towards the Infernal Dragon. Cool sets up the stun, but Scout gets the electrocute and lands sideways ethereal chains. Crisp walks up to knock the LeBlanc back as the Dark Binding misses, but a late Unbreakable Will. Teleport coming in from LWX to join the fight as Cool finds Mako. Hextech ultimatum onto Haro. He might be able to get out of CC, but he cannot get out of the ultimatum. And LWX able to join the fight. Alex finds the kill onto iBoy as Scout runs away. And again, Alex with the thumbs up, playing the mental game.
Looked a little bit scary, however. So yeah, Alex comes through on the back half of that, but they almost let Crisp out to get rinsed there. Luckily, some quick thinking and some fast footwork. He's able to stall out long enough with the Alistar ultimate to get his team into collapsing position. And again, that exact same ramp. This time around, FPX have not moved on it. Look at all of the control vision. They were blown out last game. Edward Gaming constantly had vision over this side of the map behind the Dragon Pit. Now FPX say, no, we're constantly having this control warded. You're going to invade and we will fight you for it.
And we already saw what happens when that ramp is controlled by EDG in game 1. Haro and Mako have the freedom to step in, invade the jungle. Scout can easily rotate down and affect that bottom lane and allow iBoy to snowball any advantages he's able to get naturally through lane. But by denying this through constantly fighting over these plays, FPX have stymied EDG's playbook.
And it looked like disaster at this point when Cool is flashing away and Crisp is simultaneously going forward. But Crisp holds his cool, he uses his cooldowns at the appropriate time to buy himself enough time for the rest of his team to engage. I still do want to point at Alex in that replay, not the greatest target selection. You can tell that he's caught in between, okay, do I zone off the Kaisa or do I fall back with my team, try to get some burst damage onto them and get them, some of their health back as EDG members start falling. In the end, it worked out.
So far, it's paying off. 6-2, 2-1-2 on Alex, another 4-1-0 on Cool as he is getting real big. Now happy to invade with FPX as they have got control of the game. And we have to turn our attention to EDG as to how they're going to try to break it out. And look at Haro and Mako. Look at where they are. If they're just returning back to the scene of the crime, trying to look for the same opportunity. Luckily, FPX aren't there because they're busy taking EDG's camps on the other side of the map.
Hold on, though. A possible dive scenario here between Cho'Gath's Burst, which he doesn't have Feast, but he very soon will, as well as Camille's ultimate. Ray could be in trouble.
Body slam, and he gets out of the tactical
Good read by
sweep. Slowed at the very end as FPX going to look for some push onto the turret. Still sitting on the Hextech ultimatum. As that Rupture misses, Ray is just constantly playing around this. Gets some good damage. He's soaking so much pressure and forces Alex down to half. That's the Predator as Haro is set to collapse. Hookshot was just used, but Gimgoon decides not to follow up. Rupture sidesteps. Gimgoon getting kited out expertly. Scout collapses. And EDG just with raw skill trying to turn this Crisp over the wall. Finds the knockup. He's only going to get Scout. Hextech ultimatum as Alex flashes away. Gets himself some life, but dies to the Ignite. Haro trades his own life arbor, but Ray is still alive. iBoy and Mako join the fight late and pick up the kills. It's 2 for 2 in the extended trade, but that's Cool dead and EDG stacking up top.
And another scenario where LWX is the guy that doesn't make the rotation, doesn't have the ability to teleport, is on cooldown. Now, he will get a lot of free EXP and some gold, forcing that wave into the tower, but it's a Vladimir, so the tower isn't going to fall as quickly, although it looks like it's got a lot of work done on it. So our Observer, it's still looking top.
Good damage there. Crisp again finds iBoy stepping too far forward. He's not able to get a lot of damage onto the turret, but as you said, LWX, he's working his health down. Doesn't quite have enough, though. It's going to take at least one more wave. But look at that, EDG, they're not even trying to defend it. They're going to try and base race this, despite the massive health advantage for FPX.
I mean, the only advantage that they have is, again, it's still a Vladimir, so it is going to take him multiple waves, multiple little blood spools.
He's getting there.
Almost.
One more. There he goes. Wow, that was painful. But he did it. He got the 13 CS advantage, solo first brick. And FPX are still trying to control the Rift Herald. Here we see that fight again.
And this looks so good initially from Ray. Like, how well Ray plays this is just impressive. Now, an issue is that the Q from Olaf doesn't connect there for the initial burst damage on Gimgoon because Ray repositions him. Then Crisp, huge play over the wall to find the Pulverize. Alex actually flashes away, only stalls out some of his death. And then Cool, it's a massive Aurelia. She does do good damage on the back half, but such a messy fight.
Yeah, just cannot keep up with the Kaisa kiting her out. As Protobelt was picked up by LWX with that gold advantage, FPX now turning towards this Rift Herald to take even the next step, as they are just moving from one objective to the next and forcing EDG to make bad decisions in these fights. Even though they are a little bit reckless, it is absolutely paying off. As it's 2,500 gold. Again, they've taken bottom, and now they could look to open up top or mid.
And Rift Herald is really important for these types of compositions when you do have a traditional mage as opposed to a traditional ADC in that marksman position. Because we saw how long it took Vladimir to take the tower. They've then got Melee and Aurelia. Melee, oh, hello.
Flash Soul Shackles. Mako is the target. He has no stopwatch.
Good
hello. Sanguine Pool, and LWX finds the kill. He's going to get chunked low. Drops himself to Tides of Blood, but drops down. Ray even teleporting into Collapse, as it was never a 2v2 FPX. It was never going to be an even fight. Ray and Haro make it a 4 versus 2. But FPX are trading elsewhere.
You're still committing with the Rift Herald. You're competing with it. Edward Gaming, what?
They're still trying to keep pace. Shelly will charge. Mid-tier 1 broken down. Scout forced to back away. Even Gimgoon is here to try and defend, but Ray and Haro are on their way.
We're now in a race. Gimgoon wants to flash the wall and feast that.
That's the Rupture. Gimgoon thinks about it, but decides not to follow up. They're collapsing over the side. Haro's the target. He's got no Ragnarok, and the thumbs up from Alex yet again. 15 CS ahead, 2, and 5, playing the mind games against EDG to force them out of their calm, out of their control, and into an emotional roller coaster.
An emotional roller coaster for me as well. Mid versus top, not a fair trade for Edward Gaming. They are picking the wrong places to hold their ground onto the map, and FPX are just winning because they're creating chaos. Now, this initially starts out with the trap, but EDG just commit too many members without being aware of where the Rift Herald is. They know that the enemy jungler has it. They don't know where Alex is. There's, of course, going to be a counterplay when you have that many members top. And look at mid lane. That's 1 ping, 2 ping, 3 ping, 4 ping. Cool is saying immediately, 3 members top, we must force mid down.
And this is the communication between the mid jungle that we've been talking about this entire series. Cool makes a call for Rift Herald mid. Alex follows up and gets the kill. Cool makes a call to collapse on the Olaf. Alex follows up, drops the Hextech ultimatum, and they find themselves a kill and the mid-tier 1 turret. Whereas EDG, yes, they roam and they collapse top, but that is not an equal trade considering the value that FPX got off the back of that. Double Infernal now for this FPX roster. Frosk, FPX are pulling EDG apart here.
And they're able to skirmish with them. We talked about this in Champion Select a lot, that if EDG fell behind or even, they're going to start splitting up the map and playing a lot of hit and run, using the mobility of the Kai'Sa, the LeBlanc, as well as the Olaf to try to find certain picks. With Alex so far ahead, with Cool so far ahead, not only can FPX play the 5v5, but they can also match that hit and run style, and if EDG don't pick their targets perfectly, they're going to lose at every position on the map. And with Double Infernal, I don't know if Edward Gaming can win this unless there's a massive misplay from FPX.
Crazier things have happened. You can see the gold on your screen. It's about even between those 80 carries as iBoy has been keeping pace with LWX despite that first brick. But in the mid lane, despite it being even in CS, it's 7-2-0 on Cool to the 1-2-2 of Scout. A solid 2,000 gold advantage for the Aurelia, who did complete the Trinity Force after that Tiamat. They're stepping up to look for some vision, though, and find themselves getting punished. Cool still looks for the fight. Scouts the target, ignited, and again, how does he keep finding the correct target? Over the wall, stuns iBoy. Cool with the double kill. A cask from Ray to try and stall this out, but he's already dead, man. FPX are still chasing it down. Now they're looking for Ray. He's running for the turret, but with no flash. FPX are going to force him away out with that body slam.
And he manages to get out, and fortunately for them, it's just going to be the top tower that's going to fall. Could have been much worse. The Baron still has 1 minute and 10 seconds to go before it spawns. But this is what I'm talking about. EDG, I don't think they have any way to attack the map. They need to outthink FPX right now, and that isn't, you know, standing in a bush thinking that you've got to pick on Aurelia, because Aurelia is huge, and Cool knows it. Flashes in aggressively, finds the right target time and time again.
Over the wall, finds the stun onto iBoy to get that next kill. Titanic Hydra finished on this Aurelia, 9-2-1. Absolutely massive. But like you said, it's 30 seconds to the Baron. EDG, they need to be more tactical. They cannot take these chances against FPX, and even if that is going to be through splitting the map, even that's risky considering the damage that Aurelia is going to do against any solo target.
So now if you're Edward Gaming, at this point in the game, you're like, okay, we need to split up the map, we need to play the vision game, and we need to take massive numbers advantages. And then our late game insurance policy, they just have to believe it's iBoy. Even if I don't really agree with it in terms of like an Aurelia and a Camille and a Vladimir against a Kai'Sa, that's all EDG got. They just got to be like, okay,
the one thing, yeah.
We've got iBoy, our hyper carry, on a hyper carry. If we just get Kai'Sa to a breakable point, we can outplay and we can win this. Whereas on the other side, FPX have the Cho'Gath, so their Baron secure play is much more powerful. They have an Aurelia and a Camille, so their ability to start and stop Baron is incredibly powerful with how they can disengage from the objective and immediately force a fight. Their ability to play side lanes with Camille and Aurelia is incredibly potent. They have a wealth of opportunity about how to attack this game.
Now, it should be noted, though, that FPX historically has not been the smartest team when playing around Baron. They have a tendency to either overcommit or undercommit, not quite finding that sweet spot of baiting in the enemy team or finding the opportunity to take Baron without baiting in the enemy team. So EDG, they might have an opportunity to play around that.
So if I'm the coach of FPX, at this point I would be like, don't take the Baron. You don't need it to win the game. Now, the one thing that it would...
Ooh, Vanguard's Edge forces the
Scout's
flash.
Like, no. The only thing that it would assist them with is, again, they are a Vladimir as opposed to a traditional ADC, so having the Baron is important in terms of shoving down these towers, but they're so far ahead that instead of just playing a siege game, they can play the dive game.
Yeah.
You know, they've got an Alistar, they have a Cho'Gath, they don't need the Baron-empowered minions to hit and whittle the towers. If EDG stand underneath the tower, they'll just fly in, kill them, then take the structure.
Scout walks up, but Cool, constantly pushing these waves in. And as you said, that dive threat from FPX is so strong. Spellbinders at 50 stacks for LWX. He is going to destroy whichever target he decides to find in these massive fights. And EDG, they're trying to defend, but slowly they are losing ground, especially with FPX's most recent recall.
So what Edward Gaming want to do and why they're grouping up is because they want to get control again over their defensive vision. That single ward on the back of the Baron pit is allowing them this back, but it may be cut short if FPX are daring and just immediately try to burn the Baron, because they would do it so quickly. In fact, just because of the imperfect information that FPX have, it's actually going to save EDG. Oh, no, maybe it's only going to buy them 10 seconds.
Baron initiated by FPX. They don't hesitate this time. They're not going to risk it with that risky push and pull around the pit. You can see Crisp is trying to zone on the far side, forced to use the ultimate, but Scout backs away instead of going in. Haro, he's finally got some vision. Scout's there alongside him. Mako and Ray, that's the spell shield onto Haro, but he goes the long way around, and Baron is picked up by FPX. Stun ready for cool, but it doesn't connect.
And the brilliance there was the fact that Gimgoon walked around behind the pit, recognized that Olaf didn't have the flash, that they were blue side, that EDG were red side, so Olaf would have to walk all the way around, deletes the blast cone, and then immediately turns to the Baron. So they didn't need Baron to finish the game, but they decided it's easy to do because we are from blue side. They have to play it like this from red side, and we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen.
And that's a tactical vision game from FPX, finding an opening in EDG's position on the map, relying off the back of the threat that Cool and Alex have been providing over the course of this entire game too. Now with this Baron, we've got to start to look to EDG. They've got themselves moderate amounts of wave clear with that Kai'Sa, but it is dangerous wave clear at low range. The distortion forces LeBlanc to get onto the minion wave. And as you said, the dive threat already existed before the Baron. Well, now FPX have got themselves the solid go button with massive minion waves building up.
I mean, what you're looking for is that FPX continue to have strong flanking defensive vision, which is exactly what Crisp is doing right now, as well as those 2 control wards to their left-hand side. They'd rather push the bottom inhib just because A, it secures them the second Baron should the game go that long, but B, again, it's much easier to defend that position. And then all eyes are on Crisp and Gimgoon. If they find any multiple members of EDG, FPX will end the game.
Waves starting to push in more and more. The Dark Binding doesn't connect, but the inhibitor turret is broken down by FPX as they're bobbing and weaving. It's so risky for EDG to step forward as they decide just to give up the inhibitor, and it seems as though FPX, they might not be able to end the game here, though they certainly have the damage to. EDG are content to just give away parts of their base as long as that means they can scale up and try to look for that late game.
The one opportunity that EDG want to play around is actually this mid inhib, possibly the top one, simply because they already have the vision game set down. But what EDG need to do is they must find really deep flanking opportunities because they need to get to the back line and start deleting as many members as possible. Even then, though, I don't think they win the 5v5. Yeah. I think this game, if it comes to a fight, it's actually just clearly over. But that's their only option, and that's so what risky, Scout's trying to do.
Who does Scout target? The Aurelia? She can absolutely solo you 1v1. The Vladimir, he just drops into the Tides of Blood, but there goes the dive. Target is Ray. Iboy caught in the Hextech ultimatum. They're doing everything they can, and they lock him down. Gimgoon gets the kill with the Feast. Alex trades his life. Scout gets 1, but it's not enough. Haro running the wrong way through. The minions will die, passing that kill. Back over to Cool, but that's FPX easily following up on the dive. Gimgoon's going to recall and teleport right back in. Baron still for 40 seconds, but FPX in a 25-minute game are looking to bring us to game 3.
And it's over. FPX, the first time they faced Edward Gaming in the domestic conference, went 2-1, losing to EDG in the final game, but they're going to get an opportunity to try to correct that mistake and secure their playoff spot.
And the Nexus goes down. A quick dab out of Crisp as, again, this is FPX playing the mental game and showing they've got the fortitude to bounce back in this series against EDG. We're all tied up 1-1 as Cool, the veteran on your screen, in 6 years. He has not had a chance to really shine, but now this could be the chance with FPX. If they take this victory here and advance into playoffs, they very well could try to make that run towards Worlds.
And it feels like this series is about the mid-jungle synergy. We heard it from us, you heard it from Cool, and you saw it that game. I believe he was sitting at, what, 12 kills by the end of it?
All of the kills, yeah.
Ridiculous stat line on the Aurelia, popping off the breaking point and the main pivot point that FPX were able to attack this map from.
And you can see the massive damage that Cool was doing. All it took was a little bit of snowball from the right person, and FPX break that game open, Cool specifically. And as you said, it was through that mid-jungle synergy that we saw Alex decide to affect that mid lane by intelligently, very intelligently, denying the invade from EDG, starting off with that red buff, and then instead of taking the even trade, saying, okay, we're going to vertical jungle, we're going to go even, saying, no, we're not that kind of team. we're not the kind of team that's going to allow the even trade back and forth. We're the kind of team that's going to fight you for every single advantage we can get.
And it's playing with that confidence. We didn't want to see FPX go quietly into the night. They are a very skirmish-heavy, brawler-oriented team, so create that chaos. Don't let Edward Gaming play their playbook-controlled style, which is exactly what we've seen from EDG. If the Tahm Kench hadn't been banned, that would have been the exact same composition run back from game number 1 and game number 2. They tried the exact same level 1 invade, and they tried to do the exact same play style no matter what. So FPX, by reading it and saying, no, you must now reach into your Mary Poppins bag and pull something else out, like, what is it going to be for game 3?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to find out, because EDG, as we said, as we get closer to playoffs, they want to show as little as possible, and knowing that those games are coming up that are much higher stakes for the elimination, but their seeding could very well be on the line in this matchup against FPX. They have to show us something different coming into this game 3, because it was just a clear setup from FPX from the beginning, denying the invade, letting Alex roam around and shut down Haro, and then constantly playing the mental game, dropping emotes on top of him, invading him in the face. Even though you can't take the skirmish, just the presence of being in your jungle, forcing him back and forcing the lanes of EDG to be on islands.
And personally, I just don't like the strategy from Edward Gaming. Again, if I'm the coach for EDG, if I'm no-face standing behind them, and I'm looking at FPX, I'm saying, this is a team that likes to skirmish, this is a team that likes to 5v5, and this is a team that it often has too aggressive or offensive positioning in big 5v5s. So what I want to do is I want to stack a lot of AoE, I want to stack a lot of hard CC, and I want to play fights front to back. And EDG said, we're not going to have any targetable hard CC, we're not going to have any ability to play front to back, and it's going to be entirely about kind of early mid-game snowball.
It was even the lack of engage that has been so characteristic of EDG when they take losses like this, that they don't have a clear way into the enemy fight. Sure, you look at that and you say, oh, they've got Dark Binding, they've got Ethereal Chains, they've got a Gragas cast to try to set it up. All of that is predicated on having vision beforehand and the capacity to follow up on that sort of engage. EDG never got that vision after Alex started controlling the river, and they never got the opportunity to group up until it was far too late and Cool already picked up those kills.
It's why I think that the Camille pick is actually so important in this matchup. And I either want Edward Gaming to recognize that and ban it away, or recognize that and priority pick it away, because they've now been red side 2 times in a row, and the rotation has been Gragas Kai'Sa. Give the Kai'Sa away. You have iBoy, he can play it all. If he has the confidence that you can give LWX one of his best champions of Kai'Sa, just let him have it, but take that Camille away, because Haro is an incredible Camille player, and it looks like Alex is really shining on this pick because of the ability to force a fight and say, we're ahead, and now we're going to punish you.
And that's what I want to talk about from the draft of FPX, because during the Camille second pick in this game 2, he actually hovered the Talia for a good 10 or so seconds, so it seems as though FPX, they're even prepared in this regard, that they see that that Talia can be played and might be considering counter-picking it away. So again, coming into this side selection, FPX get to choose going into this game 3. EDG chose on game 2. So we'll see where they decide to end up, because this next pick and ban is going to determine the whole pace of the series, because FPX, they found their fire. They found their momentum in game 2. It's up to EDG to try and ice them out.
And I'm really curious what either team is going to identify as kind of like the priority pick going in. So back-to-back games, it's been Alistar for FPX on blue side, but it could be that EDG say, okay, Camille's not the problem, it's the Aurelia. You know, if Aurelia hadn't gone, you know, whatever and whatever, we would have won the game. But ultimately, I think that's the wrong mentality, and if EDG take away Aurelia, then I think that they've actually gone down the wrong rabbit hole. So that's what I'm going to be looking for as we go into game number 3.
And speaking of that Aurelia, Cool will take our MVP. Surprise, surprise, that massive performance. 11, 2, and 2. A third of his team's total damage.
Yeah, just a big performance. Now, that said, he did have Alex in his back pocket. A much better game number 2 than game 1 from the jungler from FPX. So, yes, Cool deserves the MVP. I don't think this was an iBoy and Mako situation, but he certainly was set up for the spike by his jungler.
Absolutely. And it was FPX coming together to find that spike. Again, huge performance for them to collapse on that. Crisp is ready to body block, and then the Vanguard's edge lands and Cool just goes in.
And recognizing that he is powerful. So many times you see players who don't recognize the strength of their champion or don't recognize how far ahead. That is never going to be the case in the LPL. As soon as our players have an advantage, they will get everything out of that advantage.
It's just finding that advantage in the first place, and that's what makes these games so volatile and so much fun to watch. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break while we get ready for that game 3. Don't go anywhere. FPX versus EDG is coming right back.
凤凰的精神就是不畏挑战，燃烧青春。